The Auditor General is, first and foremost, is the chief fiscal watchdog of the state. It's to make sure that all the money is spent appropriately, and that's not just for the state government, which would be the executive offices, but also for school districts across the state as well. That is the main function. But you also conduct what are called performance audits, and that is to make sure that programs are running the way they are supposed to be running. That is, in the 90s, when there were a lot of problems in nursing homes in Pennsylvania, it was Auditor General, then Auditor General, now United States Senator Bob Casey, that discovered that through a performance audit of the nursing homes that led to a significant improvement in the performance, or in the functions now of the nursing homes, because there was a lot of seniors weren't being taken care of appropriately through the efforts of Senator Casey. That then Auditor General Casey were able to find out those abuses that were taking place, and he put a lot of, brought that to light, put a lot of pressure on the legislature, and a whole series of reforms were enacted by the legislature and Governor Ridge. So, but those are the two primary functions, but the number one role is as the chief fiscal watchdog of the state. One main reason is that the Republicans control everything in Harrisburg, and I believe someone who is strong and independent of that should be the one that's keeping an eye on the store, so to speak. That's number one. Number two, I think my background, first legislator to post my expenses online, someone that has very low expenses on my own, and I've had an independent streak. If you see open records, when it comes to, leading on that effort, which was not, maybe more popular now, but wasn't quite as popular when we were pushing it when I was first elected. Certainly pushing now the open records for the state-related universities, Penn State, to make sure that there's more openness and transparency. My background has been about openness and transparency, and I believe that that is the type of person that should be the Auditor General. So you combine my background with what needs to happen in Harrisburg right now, which is, with Governor Corbett and the Republicans controlling the legislature, we need someone strong, independent, but also someone with, I believe, progressive values, who's going to fight to make sure that the programs are running the way they are supposed to be running, and also making sure that the taxpayer dollars are spent appropriately, and we're getting rid of every single dime of waste, fraud, and abuse that we can, so that we can do what we need to do to fund critical programs in education, healthcare, and protecting our seniors. Because if we don't find areas where the administration is spending money where they shouldn't be spending, maybe trying to reward a friend, something along those lines, then that is another excuse that they're going to use in the next budget cycle for more cuts to programs that really matter to people. Like we saw in this last budget when they made these devastating cuts to public education. We have to do everything we can to save money so we can keep those key programs running. When I say this, understand that we would obviously be conducting more, but I think there's three areas where we need to focus on. Number one, on the performance audit specifically, we need to make sure our water is protected. So we need to conduct a performance audit at the Department of Environmental Protection to make sure their water protection programs are operating the way they're supposed to be running. With the Marcellus Shale drilling, look, there's a lot of jobs being created by that, but we all know there's a lot of concern about water quality that's going along with that. We need to make sure our water is being protected. That's number one. Number two, we need to do a performance audit, in my view, of job creation programs at the Department of Community and Economic Development. Recent reports have come out that some of these programs simply aren't working. Taxpayers are investing in them, but they're not leading to job creation for Pennsylvanians. So we need to find out which programs in the department are working, which ones aren't. The ones that are working, make the case that they should continue that investment, maybe even make it more so, but the ones that aren't working, either give suggestions on how to retool them or get rid of them, because we shouldn't be wasting money on job creation programs that aren't creating jobs for Pennsylvanians. Third, I believe we need to do an infrastructure audit. We have a lot of roads and bridges that need additional investment in Pennsylvania. The governor, unfortunately, has not shown the leadership necessary on this issue. That would put people back to work. Doing an infrastructure plan and an infrastructure package, funding our roads and bridges, would put people back to work, and also would provide quality roads and bridges for the future, which would be good for Pennsylvanians. But that infrastructure audit can pinpoint exactly where those investments need to go. What the Constitution provides specifically is clean air and pure water. The Pennsylvania Constitution, one of the few constitutions in the country, at the state level, is very clear. all citizens have the right in Pennsylvania to clean air and pure water. There's no wiggle room there. A lot of us are concerned, though, not that, when I say this, it's never been tested in the courts as to whether it's a constitutional violation, but the reality is, it is there in black and white, that people have a right to pure water, and we need to know. Right now, the short answer is we don't know. We need to know that the department is doing everything they can to protect that water. Well, my singing voice certainly will not appear on my campaign website, and there's a reason for that. I'm awful. Even in church, people, they hear it, they kind of turn around, like, is that really what I'm hearing? I mean, I wasn't barely allowed to sing in the shower growing up as a kid. It's that bad. And my kids are pretty clear about their agreement with that position. Tracy, she tries to be much more, encouraging about it, but when you push her, she'll concede it's an awful, awful singing voice. So that's something that clearly people will not see on my website, my state rep video. We try to keep that one under wraps, so to speak. But the best thing about Jack is that nobody ever questions his integrity. He is a man of integrity. He's a Marine. He's a tough guy. He's been involved in public service in a long time. And I think, he approached it from the right perspective, and that is, it doesn't matter who the governor is. You're not there to be the governor's buddy. I mean, there's a reason why we elect the Auditor General and you don't appoint the Auditor General. The Auditor General has to be tough, fair. You're not going to, I've always said, if I go in and audit a program or a spending item and Governor Corbett is doing the right thing, I'm not just going to make hay because I'm a Democrat and he's a Republican. You commend the governor on that and you move on to the next one. But I think, Auditor General Jack Wagner was dogged against Governor Rendell, and I'm sure that caused some moments where Governor Rendell wasn't thrilled about it, and now he's being dogged with Governor Corbett. That is probably, I would say, the #1 thing I can say about Auditor General Jack Wagner is his integrity, and he approached the job that way, and I believe I would bring that same level of integrity. And this is not sort of to say that he didn't do this, but I think you've got to use more mechanisms to bring the information to the public, whether using more social media, the website, email, Twitter, etc. So I think that towards the end of Auditor General Jack Wagner's term, he's beginning to start to move in that direction, but I would know that I would hit the ground running. We would post all our audits on the website, we would use Facebook, Twitter, etc. to get that information out, because the reality is not everyone is watching broadcast news anymore, especially the younger demographic. But as we now know, if you just look at anyone's Facebook demographics, the statistics, that is becoming a much more diverse crowd even there. So I think one of the things I would stress is that I will use all tools available media-wise to get the information out to the public, because not only do you have to do the audit, but you've got to let people know what you find. And critical here is making the case on how you can improve the program. And so I will work with the administration and with school districts. It won't just be I go in, I find something wrong, have a press conference, get a good press hit, say, oh, Eugene's there, he's always fighting. Yeah, I'm not just going to say I'm not going to make the case publicly, but I'm also going to work with the entities that we're auditing to try to give them recommendations on how to improve that program, because it's not just about getting headlines, it's trying to make government work so that the programs can work for all the people of the state moving forward. Look, my background has been one that, whether it be sports when I was younger, college, law school, going to night law school, where you got to be pretty tenacious. I'm 5'10" and a half, 172 pounds, and played college football and baseball. So, it wasn't because of my size that I was able to do that. And I think it's that same level of tenaciousness that will help me be a successful Auditor General.